off all these siege tanks now. Those drones really desperately trying to run for their lives. There's Wednesday Night
vVv Gaming.
And we've already talked about the map quite a bit, but why don't we go over it again one more time, Matron?
Again, this is Test Bug, so it's introduced the last MLG. I played quite a bit at Dallas, and because it is a mirror matchup, there won't be any racial imbalances on this one. It does feature 3 starting locations, each with a different terrain. In the northwest, it looks like we have vVv Time spawning as the blue Protoss in the more jungle terrain, and then RevShaDow spawning as the red Protoss in the eastern position in the more of the dark deserty terrain. So again, both players will be able to expand away from their opponent or towards their opponent, one of the features on this map, and pretty close rush distance by ground. If you choose to go that route, both players will have warp gate tech at some point, so they can go for a very early aggression if they choose, or they can try to just stay back, play very defensive. Because of the recent changes to PvP, we see a lot more builds open up.
Yeah, definitely. RevShaDow currently opening up with, I believe, a 9 pylon as I go ahead and get up that this overlay on the screen. So vVv Time, both players pretty much opening with the same exact build so far. We should be seeing a gateway. No one's really delaying that first probe for a 10 gate of sorts, so it doesn't look like a 10 gate into a cybernetics core, and we may have a more macro style of game.
Yeah, I mean, so far just still pretty standard openings. One thing is RevShaDow has chosen to sort of wall off. He's got his buildings at the ramp there, and Time does have his buildings away from the ramp, so he's going to be able to get a nice concave going if he needs to defend against a 3 or 4 gate pressure, using that ramp and a possible sentry to do quite a bit of damage on the defensive, whereas RevShaDow has those buildings placed near that ramp, so they're a little more susceptible to attack, and that might show one or both players can be a little more aggressive here. I definitely like Time's placement in this matchup. Just keeping that ramp clear, that way you can get a nice concave and get your zealots up on your opponent's zealots if he tries to get up your ramp.
Yeah, I think RevShaDow is going to try to build it. No, he's not building the cybernetics core, so I guess he just wanted a little bit of a more tighter ramp, but he should be able to defend it fairly easily. Perhaps he was worried about not having enough buildings to block any high ground warp-ins. And we are going to see a rather early gas, a gas block by RevShaDow. So RevShaDow making sure that Time unable to get any additional gas over here. And now he should be heading out of there in just a moment as a zealot will be sticking its head out.
Yeah, and Time actually scattered RevShaDow second, so he wasn't able to get a gas steal of his own. So RevShaDow getting both of the gas of his own, plus taking Time's. I should probably call him Shadow at this point. I think Rev was a previous team. So Time will be on 1 gas and Shadow will be on 2. So Time just going to have to basically stay on the 1 gas. He's not going to be able to tech very hard, possibly get up a 2nd and 3rd gateway at some point. He started his warp gate research, both players have, and Shadow has invested the extra minerals in the gas block. And we'll see if Time goes to try to take it down at the very start here. His first zealot is chasing down that probe of Shadow, and he's coming out with a sentry as well. So again, he's going to be on the defensive here, getting that sentry out second. He's going to be able to wall off that ramp with force fields. Shadow getting out a stalker first here, and now he looks like he's going to be trying to find that probe.
Yeah, a pretty interesting steal by Shadow. Shadow, very rarely do you ever see an actual gas steal with a green present to return home. It doesn't look like Time is going to go ahead and shut down that assimilator anytime soon. Instead, opting to go for a fast expansion here, and with 1 sentry and 1 zealot, he's going to have a very difficult time trying to hold off any early aggression. And it looks like Shadow is going to be coming back in to see Time's expansion here, and now I believe based upon this, Shadow is going to be making a move, chrono boosting the warp gate research, and then perhaps setting up a proxy pylon as well.
Yeah, Shadow did get side blocked there for just a moment, so we see Time shooting ahead. It's 35 to 20. If we check the income tab, it is 26 to 21. So Time's got quite the advantage in both supply and in workers. And if Time is able to get this photon cannon up before Shadow's able to make it across here, he could defend this expansion and have quite the economic advantage.
Yeah, and we also see Blink now being researched as well, so it's going to be a really interesting battle to see what's going to be happening here. If perhaps the Stalkers are able to blink along this ridge on the right side, there's a small opening where there's a little bit of cliff. You're actually able to blink up that ramp or blink up that cliff there and get some damage. Down over here, we do have a proxy pylon now set up by Shadow and some Stalkers trying to clear out the destructible rocks in order to gain sight and reveal a little bit more of the map and figure out when time will be rolling out.
Yeah, and I like the play by time. He had his gas stolen, and what do? I mean, you can try to over-commit, you can pull some probes and try to take that down and go for a build with 2 gas, or you can just react accordingly, and I think he did just that. He threw down that forge, he got up his expansion, and now we see an encounter here. It looks like Shadow going to be pushing in against these 2 cannons. There are a bunch of force fields going down. They are going to be able to trap a few of those zealots. 1 zealot does go down, and Shadow pushing in here. He does have Blink, so he'll be doing a little bit of Blink micro, focusing down the 1 cannon here, and now it looks like Time going to have to pull perhaps some probes to defend against this, as Shadow doing a nice job with this Blink. One of the cannons does go down. Time does have his warp gate tech done, getting down an additional 2 cannons, but so many Stalkers coming in here for Shadow, focusing down these sentries one at a time, and now there are no more units for Time, just 1 Stalker, 1 sentry, now having to pull those probes off, focusing down that last cannon of Time, and now it looks like these Blink Stalkers just going to go to work on these probes, and not looking good for Time.
Yeah, definitely not looking good. I think the early aggression by Shadow realizing that his opponent didn't get enough cannons and enough sentries to really stop that, and there's the GG by Time, so Shadow taking game 1 already.